Alright guys, my ex-wife, she's despicable. She left me for no other than her boss at work. Yeah, spoiler alert. Well, there's something that I forgot to add in, guys, which is the biggest twist of the story, and I'm going to tell you all about how I got my revenge on my cheating ex-wife. During those days, I was pursuing a master's degree in computer programming and feeling overwhelmed. So I decided to take a stroll in the art gallery to clear my mind. While exploring, I ran into Jeanette. We'd grown fond of spending time together. Janet was always supportive of my career and academic endeavors. After successfully graduating from school, I proposed to Janet, and I was working at a successful company. Everything was going wonderfully. However, Janet had changed significantly after our marriage. It seemed like she had lost interest in me. She was constantly engaged in parties and shopping, growing distant from me. We discussed the issue after our first marriage year, and we decided that Janet should start working. She began to show interest in me again and came home happier from work. Months passed, and Janet started acting cold towards me once again, and her behavior was taking a toll on me. Our arguments had increased, and it felt like being with me was unimportant and bothersome to her. Janet never fully explained herself to me, and I did not talk much about her life. I had not questioned her much either, and with each passing day, my patience was running thin. So I asked a friend of mine to keep an eye on Janet at her workplace, and I also started digging into Janet's past. I discovered that Janet had a history of dating older, wealthier individuals, and that she was not the calm and kind person she appeared to be. This information troubled me, but I still hoped that our marriage might have changed her. Days later, I received a call informing me that Janet had met somebody at work, which was the reason for her coming home late. This shattered my last remaining hope. I was waiting to find out who Janet had cheated on me with. She had become consistently late coming home and distant towards me. I suspected that she had used me enough, and when my friend called me and revealed that the person she had cheated on me with, I was not surprised at all. She had been involved with her boss, which was quite amusing. Had she ruined our marriage just for more money? I asked my friend to take photos as well, and not long after that, Janet expressed her desire to move out and live in separate homes. She claimed that she could not sustain this marriage and wanted to part ways. Did she think that I was a fool? Could I be deceived by such words? I gave her what she wanted and left the house. Janet's boss was named Malcolm, and when I learned that he was married, I thought I would talk to his wife. My work life was going to be quite hectic for a few months, so I put this matter on the back burner for the time being. When I returned home from work one day, I saw divorce papers on the table and signed them. The divorce process took about a month, but during that time I heard that Janet had plans to marry Malcolm. I asked my friend for Malcolm's wife's address, and I sent her pictures that we've taken, along with a note containing my contact information. She didn't reach out to me for a while, so hey, I lost all hope. But she eventually went ahead to message me, and we decided to meet at a cafe. I went directly to the meeting place after work. Hannah arrived early, and her unhappiness was evident upon her face. Initially, she thought I reached out to blackmail her, so she came to warn me. I asked her if she wanted to divorce her husband, and Hannah confessed that she was very unhappy and acting rich to avoid divorce. She expressed her fear that if she divorced her husband, she would end up penniless and on the street. She also mentioned that Malcolm's lawyers were formidable, leaving her feeling helpless, and I told her, hey, we could seek some revenge if we had a bit of evidence on our side, assuring her that she could win with a strong lawyer from my company. So, Hannah provided the lawyers with the photos that we had and was prepared to take everything from Malcolm. Her self-confidence had grown. Malcolm, relying on his wealth, did not put up a fight in the case, which worked to our advantage. Janet and Malcolm had started preparations for their wedding, thinking that everything would go as they wanted. Due to the case and the wedding, Hannah and I have been meeting more frequently, and over time I started to have feelings for Hannah. She was kind, intelligent, but being with Malcolm had taken a toll on her self-esteem. We discussed our marriages and what we have been through, realizing that we had a lot in common. Malcolm had become suspicious of Hannah constantly going out and started having her followed, which forced us to cancel our meetings. That scoundrel wanted both Janet and Hannah. Out of fear that Hannah might be with somebody else, he had her locked up in the house. Until the wedding day, we had only communicated through phone calls, and I told her to record situations like these and send them to the lawyer. According to the feedback I received from the lawyer, Hannah could actually win the case. However, Malcolm was so focused on the wedding plans that he didn't even realize he would lose the case. The trial was scheduled to conclude in a month, and during this time I learned that Janet had a substantial debt to a man from another city. I sent Malcolm the news in an anonymous envelope. I wanted to distract them. I didn't want Janet to have a peaceful moment after everything that she's done. A few days later, I heard that Janet and Malcolm were having a fight, but Malcolm left to resolve it with his money. At that time, I went to Hannah's house to pick her up and take her with me. Malcolm returned a week later, just a couple days before the wedding, and he could not find Hannah at home and was trying to contact her in the background. I told Janet to ask Malcolm why he was looking for Hannah. Let them bicker with each other until the wedding day, because the real surprise would be then. So, Hannah and I did our shopping for the wedding together. The court case concluded and the wedding day arrived. Janet's friends, family, and Malcolm's wealthy circle were all present at the wedding. The ceremony was underway, and just as the marriage was about to be sealed, Hannah and I interrupted the wedding. Malcolm was furious. Everyone was in shock as Hannah presented the divorce papers explaining that she was seizing Malcolm's assets. Another surprise was that we attended the wedding in wedding attire. Janet looked anxious and tearful, and Malcolm had attempted to attack me out of rage. But people held him back, and Hannah and I went to the marriage registry office. Seeing how compatible we were amidst all these events, we realized we could be happy together. I thought that we could be very happy. However, after a month of marriage, Hannah became uneasy and unhappy. Before I could understand what was happening, she left a note and some money, and she was gone in the wind. In the note, she expressed that being together simply wasn't working out, and she wanted to live her own life, among other things, and here I am, sitting alone at home, abandoned once again. Update number 1. I was trying to pull myself together, not understanding why Hannah even left me, but after Janet was done with Malcolm, she tried to reach out to me. She told lies about how remorseful she was and how much she missed me, but I knew nothing that came out of her mouth could be true. Janet said she could tell me where Hannah was if I gave her a substantial amount of money. I could not comprehend how she had learned this and how she could be so greedy. I asked for some time to think. There had to be a reason for Hannah to leave. Even if I found her, she might not want to return, and everything would be in vain. I called Janet and told her that I could not give her that much money. Then I hung up. The next day, Janet showed up at my door. She asked for a smaller amount of money because she claimed to be broke. I agreed, and Janet pulled an envelope from her bag, telling me she found it in Malcolm's room. It seemed that Malcolm was still after Hannah. I needed to help Hannah. I immediately booked a one-way ticket to the city where she lived. While on my way to her house, I saw Hannah on the street, and her belly had swelled. Since I knew there was nothing between us, it had to be Malcolm's child. That's why she had run away from me. I approached Hannah, took her by the arm, and told her that we need to go home and talk. When we got home, Hannah was angry at me for following her and not giving her space. I told her that Malcolm had hired somebody to follow her and that she was being watched. Malcolm was a big jerk, and if it was about money, there's no way that he would let Hannah go. Hannah was horrified. I simply assured her that I could take care of the child and that she would not get anywhere by running away. We packed her things and returned to my place. So we went ahead to start decorating a room in the house as a nursery for the baby, ensuring that the house was baby-proofed. When Malcolm learned that Hannah had returned to me, he starts sending these threatening messages almost all the time. I had not mentioned these threats to Hannah because I didn't want her to be anxious or frightened. One day, When Hannah went to the hospital, a man bumped into her and pushed her. Malcolm was losing his temper, and it was getting on my nerves. Update number 2. I managed to get in touch with Malcolm and arranged a meeting with him a few days later on a back street. I told him to leave Hannah alone and stay away from my marriage. Malcolm chuckled and said he wanted his money or else he would never leave us alone. I was getting furious and attempted to attack him, but Malcolm's security guard were standing nearby. They held me back while beating me up, and Malcolm also threatened to beat up Hannah the same way if I did not give him money. They left me there, and I was in a lot of pain. Not knowing what to do, if I went back home, I had no idea how to explain the situation. First, I went to the hospital for treatment. Then I called Hannah and told her that I could not come home today due to a work-related issue. I was thinking deeply into a hotel room. I had a lot of questions in my mind. Should I give him all the money? And what if he did not leave us alone afterward? If I didn't give it to him, would he continue to act this way? In the early hours of the morning, I left the hotel and went home. I told Hannah that we need to pack up and leave now. At first, Hannah did not understand what was happening, but when she saw my injuries, she realized. Suddenly, she stopped and said, "We can't keep running like this." I knew that, but I could not think of any other solution, and Hannah did not want to run. Her pregnancy was quite advanced, and we were only about 3 months away from the due date. She suggested that she could give most of the money she received from the divorce to Malcolm. If we recorded the exchange, we could potentially send Malcolm to jail, and that way we would not have to live in fear anymore. So we agreed to deliver the money to Malcolm, and I told him that we would meet at the location he shared. Over the next few days, we visited various banks to collect money, because we cannot withdraw it all in one place. Update number 3. I spoke to my childhood friend who was a police officer about turning Malcolm over to the police directly. I told him about the threats that we received, the constant attacks on my wife, and that my wife's ex-husband was behind it, even asking us for money. My friend Jason said he would help. On the day of the meeting, they arrived before us and would be on duty. Hannah was very tense. She was terrified of anything happening to the baby. After preparing the money and getting dressed, we set out and headed to the meeting point. Jason was there and assured us that he would protect us. Malcolm had arrived before us and was waiting. When he saw us, a vile smile crept up on his face. We got out of the car and Malcolm's gaze was fixed on Hannah. When he saw that Hannah was pregnant, that smile on his face turned into an ugly mix of jealousy and anger. Before discussing the money, Malcolm turned to me and commented on how Hannah's pregnancy was a miracle, given that Hannah was such a useless woman. He was trying to provoke me once again, and I told Malcolm that Hannah was my concern now and he had no right to comment or speak about her. I made it clear that he was nothing but a stalker from the past. I threw the money in front of him and tried to get him to stop threatening us. Malcolm lost control of his temper and started shouting. These simple threats escalated into him claiming that he would torture us every day and make Hannah lose her child. He continued to spew such sentences, and while Malcolm was talking, Jason intervened and arrested him. Malcolm did not even realize what was happening. I put Hannah in the car and approached Malcolm. I turned off the recording devices and told Malcolm that if he ever pursued us again, I would not spare his life. Update number 4. Hey guys, Malcolm has been arrested, and I thought we were finally free from all the troubles. However, Hannah's water broke, and she was going into premature labor. We were extremely worried about the baby, and I rushed to get Hannah to the hospital. They rushed Hannah to emergency cesarean delivery at the hospital while I anxiously waited outside. Hannah did not come out that night, and I was waiting anxiously. Jason came to me to offer support, and the doctor said the baby was born before it was fully ready, resulting in respiratory issues, and Hannah needed to stay in intensive care for a bit. I felt shattered when I heard the news. Jason was holding me. I could not regain my composure for a long time, and these events were the result of Hannah's age and the stress that she's been through. I wish I could have protected Hannah better. I started visiting Hannah and the baby after work, and the baby was a girl, but I had not even given her a name yet. I was hoping Hannah would wake up soon, and the doctor said it might be challenging for the baby to make it past 1 or 2 years. I didn't know how to tell Hannah when she woke up. Jason kept me informed about the legal proceedings, and Malcolm had been found guilty by the court, and due to his prior offenses, he would have to be given a hefty fine and have to serve a few years in prison. Jason also mentioned that they had not found evidence to catch Janet, who was apparently behind these events. Janet was like a cunning snake, as always. While Jason and I were discussing all this, Hannah starts to regain consciousness. We had a conversation at first to help her settle down, and she asked about our baby. I told her that once she was feeling a bit better, she can go and see the baby herself. At least she would not have to face bad news as soon as she recovered. A week passed, and Hannah was getting better. I felt like it was time, to talk with her. Hannah sat down with a worried look on her face, and I explained to her that our baby might not make it past the first 2 years due to the premature birth and other factors that had negatively impacted her development. Hannah was absolutely devastated, and we went to see our baby together. Hannah named her Aria. We're waiting anxiously behind the glass. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So I found 2 comments. There was 2 comments about today's story, and one of them's positive, one of them is negative, but both of these comments got a lot of attention, so let's jump into comment number 1. And by the way, that was all the final updates. If anything happens about this story and we learn about the baby, if Malcolm becomes a bigger problem once he gets out of prison, if there is an update on this story, you guys will be the first to know about it. Here is comment number 1. Wow. What a ride of emotions. It's incredible how you managed to navigate a complex relationship and a legal battle. Honestly, your resilience is inspiring. I'd say it's heartwarming to see that even amidst chaos, you found a connection with Hannah. Your story is, unpredictably, a testament of life and the strength of the human spirit. Also, major props for handling Malcolm's manipulation with such tact. It's not just about the drama, but how you stood up for yourself and Hannah. Keep your head up, you've always shown you can handle anything that life throws at you. And comment number 2, the negative comment says this. Seriously, OP, this sounds like a bad soap opera. I can't believe you went through all that drama. I mean, digging into Janet's past, sending pictures to Malcolm's wife, scheming for revenge, it's a bit too much. And then jumping into a relationship with Hannah while she's still married? That's messy, dude. Also, using your company's lawyer for a personal vendetta? That's sketchy. Seems like you were more focused on a payback than actually dealing with your relationship issues. Maybe next time, OP, focus on communication and understanding rather than espionage and revenge plots. Just saying. Wow, this story was absolutely insane. I mean, the fact that they basically flipped the entire script, showed up at the wedding, and basically was like, hey, guys, we're here to take everything. I want all his assets, and look, I'm dating his ex. Yeah, this story was twisted. It had a lot of lefts and rights, and to be honest with you, it was full of a lot of drama. I do want to know, some of the comments were mentioning how they think OP simply went too far. Also, at the end of the story, guys, it kind of leaves us on a bit of a cliffhanger, not knowing if the baby is going to live more than 2 years or not. And just so you guys know, this story is about a year old. So there hasn't been another update about the baby, but if there's anything in the future, you guys will be the first to know about it, and the only way you'll see that updated video is if you hit that subscribe button. So go ahead, knock out a subscribe down below. Thank you for joining me on today's video. My name's Mr. Reddito. Once again, I'll see you tomorrow, and just remember, it's cool to be kind. Peace.